Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial how to model an accurate smartphone representation when, for example, we would like to develop an accessory or a case around such goods. In this process video, I show you how I sourced and found actually all the individual images, which give details about how to design the device, how then the sketches were set up, and how I got the final object. So let's start actually with finding all the documents. For example, Apple provides for free their accessory design guidelines. All the products that company has are listed there. And it's a PDF you can download. And then from the PDF, I created small screenshots. For example, this is the front corner of their smartphone. It shows actually how the corner is rounded, the bottom part, and you see there are a lot of dimensional information in those images. That is what is really so important to actually have access to. Because you could, for example, buy such a device and then measure it and model it. Well, that takes a lot of time. And ideally you want, like in this case, use the actual documentation the manufacturer supplies. Here again, like a cross-section view showing you the proportion, thickness, and corner details. Okay. This file, which here is done, can be downloaded. It's being shared with you. I will, however, start with a nearly finished basic setup file. So I have most of the details about the front, the camera, buttons for the sides, etc. But what I do not yet have, that is actually the information about how these corners are rounded. So let me show you now how we bring this in, and then actually, because this is something we have to do, we need to scale these images to an accurate dimension. So we go to Add, Image, and here is my corner profile. I will move this image up by 20 millimeters. This is good. Go to the top view. There we are. Okay, so how do I get this to the correct scale and then position it? What I would say or propose is try to find elements which are very easy to see and measure, ideally are actually nice and big. So for example, here we have a line minus 15.96 from the 0 point. One thing of warning, well, this is not necessarily a problem, but you see this is an image. When we zoom in, this gets kind of jaggy. So we can try to scale and align these images as close as possible, but it will never be razor sharp perfect. So keep that actually in mind. But later our CAD model will be when we follow actually these guidelines. Very good. So this image I can select with a finger double tap, then actually I'm sketching right on the same level. And I will just draw myself here a line. This point I will lock, and then this line should be vertical, and this line should be 15.96 millimeters. So then now we can see actually how much this image is too big, not too much. The starting point is pretty well aligned. So what I have to do now is I select my image, then I go to scale. The scale widget I move to the start of my line. You see it snaps to it. And now I'm going to scale this image down. And this looks like the endpoint of my line is also centered on the horizontal piece on the image. Okay, very good. So this should be good. We can do a test. Let's say from here down, 7.26. Very close. Very good. So the scale is actually correct. Now we have to position this image. Let's call this actually front corner detail. There we are. And we will make this a little bit less transparent. Very good. Because now I can select the image and move this over, and there I have a center line. move this a little bit closer, zoom in a tick more. The more I zoom in, the finer I can move, and I want this kind of blurry center line to be centered as much as possible. And then I just move this down. Okay, very good. So it's a little bit too far on top, as we see. Very good. You see the big image below, I lined up the top part along the x-axis, which means all I need to do here is to make sure that right there, this all is perfectly lined up. So maybe just a little bit more down. This looks actually very good. So let's turn on the other image. Wow, look how well this overlaps. We moved this one 20 millimeters up. So I will move this one back down 20 millimeters. Or was this 30? Yes, this was 30 millimeters. Okay. And opacity we can set to 100%. Very good. So now we essentially have actually, let's assume we did the same with all the other images, everything got put into position. So how do we start now? The smartphones are actually very symmetrical objects, particularly here, this one. It has 4 corners and pretty much that's the same. We also have dimensions here. So on the right, it tells us 160.84. At the bottom, it tells us this is actually, so the glass is 75.97. On top there we see product width 78.07. Good. This is a symmetrical object, so I don't really have to work on the whole part. However, I will still do something like this first. So these 2 lines I will make horizontal. These 2 lines I will make equal. These lines I will make vertical, and this I will make horizontal. Now with these 2 points, I will give a distance of 78.07. And then we have to make sure that this maintains at the center of the sketch. Very good. Now this is the overall width. And because we gave these 2 lines the equal constraint, they are always exactly the same length. This should be 160.84. Cool. Okay. Now here comes the nice trick. So here I can draw a line down, vertical to the midpoint, to the midpoint. These 2 lines I make horizontal, vertical. So now I have actually my quarter piece I have to only work on, because I need to create actually the sketch here for this corner element. I will turn on trim and remove actually these 2 lines. It's really important that these 2 lines will not move anymore. So I will lock them. And actually, to make my sketch a little bit cleaner, the rest here I can remove. It's not needed anymore. So from here I will have a vertical line, and here I will have a horizontal line. Okay. You will see there's a small line element. This is actually where the rounding starts, and here I move this one up. The front image actually might at this point not be useful anymore, and now we can go over to our corner image. And look at that. Now there you see this is correct. Also here, so this actually has to go higher. This maybe the line I saw, there was maybe something different. Very good. Okay. Let's take a look at these drawings for those who are not familiar with it. So we have 0, 0.4, 1.16. So from here to here, this is always measured away. And then from here to there, this is measured away. So this is the way how we have to read it. Right there is actually a corner point. I would like to draw this corner point out one more time. There we have it. And I draw a line horizontal and vertical. And then this here I delete. Very good. And these 2 I lock. So I just have them for reference purpose. Okay. So from here to there, this is actually 15.96. Actually, I will do something like this. Here, make this 45. Very good. And then these two lines I delete and lock, because this point I need. Select this point, and then this we said should be 15.96. Now, trust the dimensions, don't trust the overlay with the image. This also should be a horizontal alignment, so 15.96 horizontal, very good. Can move this up, and then here this has to be 15.96 vertical. Very good. Now see, you can't go up and down or left or right. So these corners actually in industrial design, for those who are not familiar with it, these are nice G2 corners, not tangent corners. So we can't just draw a box and round the corner. Let me show you actually where the difference is, or what actually the difference between G1 and G2 is. So here we have a cube, and then we round this. Nice and easy. But this is actually a really boring and terrible looking shape. And we'll see it just in a second. It's just a quarter arc. What is bad about this is because the arc is just an arc, and then right where the arc ends and stops, it instantly transforms or turns into a line. What will look, however, much better, we will use a control point curve is 1 point, second point, and then here I move this equally out. Okay, so I was just counting the cubes. Very good. There. So we take a look at this. There we can see that the curve starts actually softer and then bends a little bit more. And with the first point, I can impact the connection to the line. And with the second point here, I can then work a little bit on how the center point blends. Okay. There you see now how this looks much nicer. Here again, let's maybe put an arc over it. Oh, let's actually lock these points. There. There you can see now the difference between G1, the arc, and the custom curve we sketched. Okay. So with this basically covered, what this means is now we can go ahead, and from here we need a control point spline. So one's for tangent, the second is for G2, then another one for G2, another one for tangent, and then we connect it. And there we are. The trick here is also this spline to this line should be tangent. No, this point cannot go up, it can only go left and right anymore. There's actually a coincident constraint happening, and I don't want those actually to happen, so I will turn sketch guides here off for the moment. There. Okay, good. Now this point, see, can go left and right, and when I set this tangent, it moves this one in. We can now be very detailed if we want to, or we can just say, good, so at this point I move to this 11.54. I have the same actually down here too. And then we need to figure out left and right, how would this work? And you see it's a lot of move here a little bit, move there a little bit. I would like to show you a kind of nice trick how we can accelerate this. I draw a line and I draw a line. I draw a line and I draw a line. The line to this should be tangent, and this to this line should be tangent. This actually prevents this point going up and down. And these two lines I would like to be equal, and these two lines I would like to be equal. It's a very simple set up to actually create geometry-driven constraints. So when I select this point, you notice that the other point actually moves with it. How awesome is this? So now I can play around. So what's actually the good position? So if I now take a look, yeah, right there, you see my curve runs through the background image. This may be a little bit forward. And yeah, so there's actually our nice G2-like corner. So this is modeled. Now we have to think about thickness. So side profile, let's see, what do we have there? And so 3.62, 3.62. Okay, so that means that this goes down 3.62. And then here, 3.62. Now we have to multiply this. This is 7.24. Okay, good. Now we have this corner part. And you also notice here, wow, perfect line up. Very good. We only have one corner, and that's not a big deal. Let's mirror this over. Now one, whoops, okay. Then these two we join. And then this one, mirror going to here, there, double click, join. Yeah, and there's actually now the main basic representation of that element. We can call this actually phone body, and this is maybe, say, phone front profile. Now, the phones have front details, they have back details, also where the camera is. You see here, actually, this image looks like it's reversed. It's not really reversed. It's actually at the correct position, just seen from the back. Yeah, there you can see this. And to model, for example, this detail, what's interesting here to pay attention to is, see how this is parallel? And here, actually, this gets wider. So that is quite interesting. So for a case that, for example, should go around this object, the main feature there is really important to capture. And then for the opening for the camera array, now we also need something that is pretty close to it. Very good. Okay, so let's see what would be the next and easy logical step to do. I will hide this. There's the bottom detail, for example. There we are. So that's the USB opening, the speaker openings. There are also a few dots. I found this actually to be a quite fun element. Also here we have a rounding too. So let's actually go. There's a side profile. Very good. Okay, so you see this is actually sharp, but there is a little bit of a rounding. And from here to there, it is 2.25. So we could say, well, what about we round this? But then there you see with the fillet command, we actually don't get that type of a rounding. So how do we actually round this now correctly? This is also fairly simple. So I go to the front view. Give me 1 second. I want to check something. So you see where the phone in my case is actually starting. It's starting from the grid there, but where actually this image is, this is where I would like to start sketching. So I click on the image, double tap, I move this image previously up, and there we are. Okay. So similar deal. I can create a line and create a line. Now ideally this line should really be here on top. So, but this has to line up actually later with my with my phone, I'm trying to create a curve that kind of like a router tool. So to prevent messing anything up, what I will do is this is the detail actually of my corner. I will project onto this image. You see, there are these lines. And when I connect this, you see, it's actually also on the left side. This perfectly sits on it. Side detail, yeah, there we are. Very good. Okay, so now we have actually something that helps us to really understand what is going on. I will lower the opacity here a little bit so it's easier to see what we are doing. So there's my midpoint. This here I will lock. I simply created myself here a midpoint line. This was what I wanted to have. This is a nice line. Here, this and this I will delete for the moment because I have this line. 7.24, that's also the correct line. Then I draw two horizontal lines, make them equal. Horizontal, very good. So, and there it says 0.95 from this corner. So I will draw myself here a line, vertical, and then say here, this should be 0.95. Yeah, okay, because in there I can trim this. This point for the moment I lock. So I can select this point, simply move this up and then trim it there. And this line now I can delete. Also here we lock this, very good. So you see how quickly actually I just found this one corner point. And now we have to do the same here. It says 0.25. This part actually looks very, very linear, but they put it in there. So let's do this actually precisely too. I will remove this lower element and I will do a nice trick. Let's move this one down and then these 2 points I would like to be vertically aligned 2.5. And this is actually too big. Oh yeah, wah, wah, because this actually has to be 2.5 there. Should be equal and this should be vertical. There we are. Okay, very good. Now we do the same thing. 1 point, second point, third point, fourth point, and lock. Tangent, tangent. And we can do the same process in terms of how we drew these lines too. So these will be tangent, tangent, equal, equal, and yeah, now we need to figure out how do we move this so this looks good. To me, this actually has a good feeling. How do we get this curve down there? Let's make work a little bit easy. So this element selected, we will mirror across this line down there. There we are. Cool. Okay. Now if this thing models, I want to make sure the starting point here I don't mess up. There we are. There. Okay, so there's actually now my router tool. Router tool, that sounds a little bit funny. Not really. Check this out, what I'm going to do now. So this, I would like to sweep along this edge. And there we are. And then I will select it. I'll go to this view first and make myself a mirror copy. There we have it. And now, so from this, I will like this and this be subtracted. Don't keep anything. Look at that. Beautiful. So I hope that through this exercise, slowly you start actually seeing how useful these technical images you can get are when you really want to rebuild an accurate phone. And it's really actually not that complicated. It's very logical. It just takes a little bit of working clean and having a little bit of patience. And there we are. Very good. So this is kind of not needed anymore. Wonderful. So let's take a look at, so this is the top. So then this would actually be the bottom. So let's take a look at where the audio detail is. So there we have this image with the audio detail. It tells us, for example, here we zoom in, this area should not be obstructed. Plug has to go in there. Here we have a radius, 3.4. We also have an overall dimension of how wide this opening is. And here we even have a height of this that USB-C slot. So that one is actually really easy to do. We want to work on this face. So we select the face, double tap, go into this view. So this are like 2 circles and 2 lines. Line number 1, line number 2, circle, circle, tangent, 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 tangent. Very good. 3.01, and the inside is 3.4 for the radius. Okay, good. So this should be 3. If I memorized this correctly. Yep. Now you see this jumped up a little bit, so let's move this down to line this up more correctly. At this point I lock, and then this I will make vertical. You see this pulled actually the whole piece nicely centered. This here I can connect and make horizontal, and then this actually pulls that point down because the whole construction here is horizontal and tangent. This point is horizontal with that point already, and we don't really know actually how wide this is. See how I'm approximating this over, plus minus there. Very good. Okay. Let's say we would like to adjust the thickness, so the width correctly. Here we have the height. How do we do actually the dimension? Little trick here. These 2 lines I drew from the center of the circle to the outside. I made horizontal and terminated at the arcs. And now I can select these dots and say, hey, 8 millimeters. But, whoa, what's going on here? This is actually moving up. This is not good. So let's undo this. Let's make at least 1 horizontal. Let's go ahead. Then it doesn't rotate. Very good. What about we make this 9? Ah, perfect. See how it grows or shrinks. Cool. Okay. So this element, let's assume this is correct. Then we can later cut in as much. Then we have a representation, for example, for when we model actually a case where the element for USB slot would be. Technically speaking here, this is really the parameter we have to really be concerned about. So this is actually 13.65, and this is has nearly the height of the whole product. So I will kind of like do the same one more time. Select the sketch with finger double tap, so I'm on it. Drawing myself here an arc, drawing myself an arc, line and line, just so you see how I'm doing the next piece. I could also just realized simply use the offset command, but not with all these crazy lines I selected. So you, those please offset. There we are. So now I'm curious what's actually here, the distance. I'm just drawing these connection lines so I can measure this. So this says 12, so it should be 13.65. Tangent, that is correct. Same here. Very good. One, at least we want to be horizontal, vertical. These two lines horizontal. And then 13.65. Very good. Here I have this one line which I pull in and also make this one now horizontal, vertical. This actually rotated a little bit, not a big deal. Let's make this horizontal first. There. And now I can push this up or down. So maybe the radius actually here has to be smaller. Or maybe it's just I have to redraw this more by hand, or these lines have to be smaller. Yeah, okay, good. I'm removing those for the moment. So this one actually stays connected to there. This point, sorry, this looks a little bit confusing. This point I will connect to there. Very good. Oh no, I couldn't do this. Yeah. So when we scale this one, it's interesting that this one moves with it. And this is actually somewhat connected. Oh yeah, there's a distance thing still working. That's why. Okay, good. So this might actually look good. Then I connect this to here and here. Tangent, tangent. I lock these points so they cannot move. Now the radius more or less seems to be okay, and I should be able to move this, but you see then these lines rotate because they are not constrained this way. And if we remove this, here also, there is a midpoint there somewhere. So we will simply circumvent it this way. Bring this over. New arc. There. So this actually, this point or this arc has it was locked in there, and that was basically the problem. So I will keep this to there and draw a line down. So 13.65, that value, for example, we can divide 13.65 divided by 2. That is 6.825. So here we draw a line, makes this horizontal, and then from there to there, this should now be 6.825. Very good. The reason why I did this is simply these lines I can select, mirror along this. There we are. So I model actually the other side. Very good. Okay, let's maybe finish this part. So there we have actually all these openings. Now, let's say for do we want to have drilled holes? Do we want this be more like a bigger slot that's open? That's a design question we can ask ourselves. Here is another bottom image I have that, for example, details exactly more the position of everything. So these holes, for example, have 1.45 diameter. And then there's also from the left to the right a distance. And I thought this is actually kind of interesting to think about how this would be done. You also see here from the bottom to there, it's actually not 100% centered. It's 3.69. which is kind of plus minus 7.4. So it's, and here also we have the left edge, and then you see all these measurements we have here are in relationship to this particular corner. So this means we need to select here this line. We project onto the sketch there, and then this I would like to lock. Very good. Okay. Now to make things a little bit easier so I don't go left and right, I basically will focus here on the left element. So 1.45 is the radius. So we go back to our sketch. I will hide here the phone. And make actually 4 rings. These 4 rings I will select and make them all equal. Because now only one ring I need to give the dimension of 1.45. Wait, is this actually diameter or is this radius? This is actually diameter. So this 1.45 divided by 2 is 0.725. Wow, I was actually close. There, cool. And then, so we have now a left and a right distance. So it's 20.20. Okay, what we'll do actually this. Hold on. Yeah, so careful when you swing around, you see the grid re-updates. So I will select the sketch and realign the grid to there. And I will do now the following. So this I will connect. There's a line, there's a line, there's a line, and there's a line. You, and you all be horizontal. Very good. Yeah, I can't move them down. Very nice. So 20.20. So from this basically is 20.20. And then 28.42. So from here, oh, I need another line here. So from there to there, that is 28.42. So how do we do the spacing now? And this is actually quite fun and simple. You see, we drew all these lines here in between. We just have to select all 3 and say equal, and there it is. Now this is perfectly lined up. So let's say we make this 30. There you see how this updates. Super easy. And now you can imagine then how everything would work on the other side. Simply via plane dimensioning, we can do all this, and then we can go ahead. For example, here, cut this in. I go by 2 millimeters. So it's an easy, or maybe 1 millimeter, an easy dimension also to memorize. This we can call bottom audio detail. Very good. Okay. We're slowly reaching the end of this video. So you see I'm talking on particular details primarily. This phone is actually, while simple, it takes a little bit of time to model if you want to be nice and precise. But I hope that through the way how I explain this, you see, while these images can be scary when you never worked actually on something like this, it's not really that complicated. Just time consuming. Here, for example, if we take a look at this, there we can see all the details actually for where the buttons are. So this is the volume button here, the on-off for the ringer. So really of importance is pay attention to all these details we have. So horizontal and vertical measurements. That really tells us where objects are, how thick they are. So for example, this has a diameter of 2.66. And then the left and right dimension is 2 times 8.02 from the center for the sim tray. Here again, they do just half. This is actually 2 times the same. So you see, it's actually quite simple. The side button then pretty much the same. You see they actually from the top down, where is this button, the center, from the center, what's the distance, and then seen vertically from the height, where's the midpoint, and then what's actually here, the overall thickness. So maybe turn on the phone here. So let's go top. So this would actually be here on this side. So there. Wait. Is this the front? No, you have to be careful when you do something like this. Let me turn on the camera. Yeah. This is actually the front, so this is correct. And this is actually then there. Good. Double tap there. Okay. So I switched actually the grid onto the side face. Now I hide the body. And I simply here go ahead, draw myself the shape. Circle, circle. There are horizontal, tangent, 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 tangent. Very good. What did we say? This is 2.76. 2.76. There we are. Very nice. Easy. Here's a line. With the line, we have a midpoint. There's actually the starting point. So we could say from there to there. Now this should be horizontally 53.65. Obviously this shall not rotate. There we are. We can project the phone in. Here, this edge, I would like to project into this sketch. So there I have this line. It's actually nice and long. Interesting, it actually created a curve. So I will do the following. I will simply from this point draw myself a new line. Delete the curve. The starting point I lock, so I cannot rotate horizontal, and then I also lock this point, so I can't move anymore. And I have here my midline, and there it says from the midline to there 3.69. But this is actually also with the glass now, so keep that in mind. So what I will do is simply the following. I will draw a line here. This line I will make horizontal, and here is actually our world center. So this I will lock. This actually I will remove now, because this is for also the glasses. That's even above the phone body we modeled. So then this line and this line, please be tangent, and that moves it up. Now let's see if this actually lined up. Yeah, there you see, perfectly it does. Very good. So only piece left, distance, so 8.9. So from there to there, 8.9. Very good. When we go to this view now, let's go to the front. There it tells us actually how much they come out. So 0.45. And this I can join to there. Don't be afraid in case something is wrong later. We can always select, for example, I think this face, and no, yeah, then we're sliding it, so no. We can select this, adjust the radius, we can move this part, we can even select each element here, then we can slide this. So we can still adjust all those details. And shall the piece really be wrong and you want to remodel it, thanks to direct modeling, we can always select and delete it. So not really a big problem. Very good. I would like to end it at this point since we reached kind of like a 1 hour mark. All the other steps pretty much are repetition of everything what I showed so far. And then there you also see the camera rig. The sketches for all those elements are actually in there. And with the camera rig, there's one piece I would like to show. So I removed actually that element, and here's actually my camera sketch. So I will select this and extrude this a little bit down. So it's very useful when you put all your objects, sketches, images, etc. into folders. You see then we can very nicely, quickly turn them on and off. There, you see I modeled the rig or the platform pretty much the same way. So now I need to figure out how far this actually stands out. Let's see, where do we have the image for that? There's an image. This actually does not include it. No, I just don't. Oh, there it is. There, so left. Okay, very good. So there we can see here how far this goes down. I will actually eyeball this a tick. So I moved this one down just by 1 millimeter. That looks actually very close. Very good. And this is actually just a straight extrusion from the base. But actually there right around it is a nice, how could I say that, fillet. So I'm going to show you, to bring this to an end, how this fillet actually can be created. So these are all the initial sketches we had. Here, there actually you see the camera image. So I will hide everything besides the camera. Very good. So you see that now I have the outside parameter. So I will select this one and then shrink this till I see, this actually starts to really overlap really well. There we are. Fantastic. Good. Because we're making, let's say, at the end cases to go over this, we don't have to be so precise in every aspect. Because the material will be flexible, it will give and take. This is the display. I will hide. Okay, so yeah, this has to be joined to there. Union. Very good. And now I have actually this corner down here. And this corner I can fillet. And when I start pushing the fillet, you see actually how this gets wider and wider. Instead of being just a quarter arc, you can see how this looks more like an ellipse. So that's the way how you actually do that particular edge rounding. And of course, also here, you want to make sure that this really lines up with our image or the dimension below. Can we actually 0.5? Can we push this more? Yeah, we can. And then it changes a little bit. So I will do it simply this way. So there we see this. We don't really see this the image, unfortunately. So let's move this image maybe up and see when we go on top. Does this actually help? Yeah, it does. So this is my edge. Go to the top view. And let's push this. This is extremely close. And there we are. Very good. And that pretty much is the process how we can design such wonderful electronic devices.